On September 4th, 2024, two men left a gym in Milan. They got into a car, started to drive, then suddenly stopped. Moments later, violence erupted inside. One man crawled out, bleeding from a gunshot wound. He was Ndrangheta Beretta, the feared leader of Inter Milan's hardcore ultras. The other didn't make it. He was Antonio Bellocco, heir to one of the most notorious Mafia clans in Italy. Stabbed 21 times, that night confirmed what many had long suspected. The Mafia wasn't just lurking in Italian football, it was inside it. The obvious question is, how could a small group of men seize such control of Italy's most sacred sport? If you've ever watched The Sopranos or The Godfather, those stories were about the American branches, but the original was born in Cosa Nostra in the 1800s. Back then, mafiosi weren't movie villains. They were hired muscle, men paid to guard farms and livestock. But that protection turned into extortion. Soon, they ran entire territories, enforced silence, and killed anyone who resisted. Other groups followed. In Naples, the Camorra, the Ndrangheta. Over time, they burrowed into nearly every business in their regions. The cost to society was devastating. Studies show Mafia control drained up to 20% of GDP from southern Italy. And beyond the economics, the violence was staggering. In the 1980s, wars between Cosa Nostra clans left over 1,000 dead, including journalists, judges, and civilians. That bloodshed drew police crackdowns, weakening the Sicilian Mafia.
The largest trial in Italian history began today in a Palermo, Sicily courtroom.
The authorities, they say, are fighting more than the Mafia. They're fighting tradition.
But the Ndrangheta learned a lesson. Open violence brings heat. Quiet infiltration brings power. They pivoted. Using ports in Calabria, they built Europe's most lucrative drug pipeline, especially cocaine. Then they laundered billions through hotels, shops, and restaurants, reinvesting it like a corporation. By the 2000s, the Ndrangheta had spread beyond Calabria, embedding itself in Milan, planting franchises abroad, from Canada.
The takedown and dismantling of one of the most well-known and notorious Mafia crime families.
Today, it's estimated they earn $60 billion a year.
Unorganized crime clan, 14 confirmed as Ndrangheta, some taking their orders from the godfathers in Italy.
And once they had that kind of money, they turned to football, Italy's soft spot. Italians live for football, and the Mafia noticed. Stadiums packed with fans, rivers of cash and tickets. This wasn't a new relationship. In the 1980s, Diego Maradona's Napoli years famously brushed against Camorra influence. Later, countless match-fixing scandals showed just how far mobsters were willing to go. But in the 2000s, Mafia ambitions evolved. The Ndrangheta held stakes in teams in Calabria. These were small sides, useful for prestige and loyalty in their territories. But Milan, Italy's richest city, had two giants, AC Milan and Inter Milan, both global brands, bitter rivals, yet sharing one cathedral, the San Siro. Taking ownership of these clubs outright would have been too obvious. So instead, the Ndrangheta looked at another way in. The Ultras, gatekeepers of the stadium. Ultras aren't just die-hard fans. In Italy, they're political, cultural. They sing, wave banners, set off flares, but also organize communities, pressure clubs, and in darker cases, extort and intimidate. By 2022, Inter's Ultras were organized under the Curva Nord, AC Milan's under the Curva Sud. Each had a leader, a boss, and that's where the Mafia saw its opportunity. For years, Inter's Curva Nord was run by Vittorio Boy, known as the Uncle, beloved by many Ultras, but also a convicted criminal who had spent 26 years in prison for robbery, drug trafficking, and kidnapping. Boy used his position to line his pockets. He pressured Inter for thousands of free tickets, then scalped them for profit, bragging he made around 80,000 euros a month. But in 2022, Boy was murdered. His lieutenants, including Ndrangheta Beretta, struck a deal with Antonio Bellocco of the Ndrangheta clan. Suddenly, the Mafia had its man inside Inter's Ultras. The Mafia at the San Siro. The new bosses wasted no time. They demanded more free tickets. Ahead of Inter's 2023 Champions League final, they allegedly threatened to disrupt matches unless the club handed over 200 extra tickets. Inter complied. Worse, Inter's Ultras even colluded with their supposed enemies, AC Milan's Curva Sud, to expand the ticket resale racket. Then they moved on the real money. Parking lots, food vendors, and merchandise stalls around San Siro. In just 2 years, they'd converted Italy's most iconic stadium into a Mafia franchise worth millions. What began as football passion had turned into organized extortion, betrayal, and blood. Like every Mafia story, this one ended in betrayal. Tensions grew between Bolocco and Beretta. Each wanted control of the San Siro empire. Finally, it boiled over. Bolocco was stabbed to death, and Beretta confessed to ordering not only that killing, but also the hit on Vittorio Boy before him. For police, it was a gift. Investigators swooped in. By mid-2024, 19 Ultras were convicted of crimes ranging from extortion to murder. Beretta took a reduced 10-year sentence for cooperating. AC Milan's Ultra leader got 10 years too. Even Inter's manager and a player were banned briefly for their contact with Ultras. Both Milan clubs were fined €50,000 for the damage to their reputations. But the Mafia stain remained. The bigger picture, the Milan scandal, is just one piece. Authorities believe the Ndrangheta had already infiltrated Juventus Ultras years earlier. Napoli's fan groups have long been suspected of Camorra ties. Now clubs are trying to fight back, quietly rejecting hundreds of Ultras' season ticket applications. But it's a double-edged sword. For clubs, silencing Ultras also removes a critical voice against commercialization. With the Mafia scandal, dismissing Ultras as mobsters is suddenly easy. And so, one of football's most powerful fan traditions may be dying, not just from police crackdowns, but because the Mafia poisoned it from within. Italian football has always balanced beauty and chaos, but when the Mafia steps onto the pitch, it's never just about the game. The San Siro was once a temple of football. Now it's a cautionary tale of how power, crime, and sport became fatally intertwined. And if history has taught us anything, it's that this won't be the last time.